Recently, I was editing a wedding video that I didn't shoot myself, and I was editing it. There was something that I was noticing, and it got me thinking of my documentarian background and to share one particular thing that I think will benefit anyone shooting a cinema verite style. And I use that very deliberately because it can help with both documentary filmmaking and also, feature filmmaking as well. And I'll get into that in a moment. But a simple sort of thing is to select a subject and focus on it. Now, this doesn't mean forever, but it does mean that, you make a choice of what you're going to shoot and then specifically film that for at least a little bit, meaning 3 seconds at a bare minimum. And I say that because as I was editing this video, there was tons of stuff going on and the camera kept always moving and stuff like that. And it never focused on any one thing in particular. And that became hard to edit and tell a narrative story of this very sort of monumental moment in these people's lives, right? The wedding itself. Because, the shots themselves didn't look good and therefore they weren't going to cut together really well, right? And of course, whatever you're going to film, in this particular case, the wedding, each sort of moment has a pre-selected subject for the most part of what you want to film, right? So if you're at the moment where they're saying their vows, you want to make sure that the focus is on the bride and the groom, right? And in particular, whoever is saying their vows at that particular moment, you want to focus on them, right? So that would be one sort of notion of it. Then let's say, in particular, this also comes with you can term it B-roll, but again, everything should have a focus of a subject, right? And I'm going to talk about point of view in a moment, but let's say that it's the moment where everyone starts dancing, right? So usually, the couple does the first dance and stuff like that. So obviously your subject is them to begin with. And then as more people join, you want to film them and stuff like that. So first rule I have also is when you're filming multiple things that, seemingly can, it's okay, which one do you select? Which one's the most important? You want to go where the most action is. To help you select that subject, it's what looks the most interesting. And so oftentimes, when I'm in situations like that, I've gotten good at the ability to hold the camera and be filming something while also looking around with my head left and right of, okay, what's happening here? What's happening there? And, if something's spur of the moment that's so interesting that you'll miss it if you don't quote unquote cut away, right? Meaning take the camera and go to the other thing, then of course go do it. It's not when I say hey, pick a subject and just focus on that. It's not to say if you pick something and you thought it might be interesting, but it's not that you have to quote unquote see it out as a natural sort of progression. You can move on, right? That's totally fine. But the problem I was running into was that it just kept it almost kept searching and searching for, okay, what's interesting, and there was plenty of it that was interesting, but it never really landed. And so let's say while everyone's dancing, there's two people in particular that, for lack of a better term, are showing off, right? Their dance moves are just incredibly amazing. So you want to get that, right? So whip pan over and start filming them. So they're your subject. Now, as you're filming it, you can start to have a specific point of view. Do you want to kind of move around them? Do you want to just let the shot be still? Do you want to get a cool, interesting angle, kind of, from high up or lower down? Do you want to do some sort of tilt and then come at it where now you're level, right? These are all sorts of things that, of course, is going to be dictated by kind of what's happening. If if it's a slow dance, right, you want to be a little bit slower, right? You want to match that tempo. Like you're, as the camera person, literally becoming a dancer with them, right? So, and as they speed up, you speed up, right? So it very much works synchronous in that way. And, this is how I shot. Like when I was first getting into filmmaking, I essentially just filmed everything around me and cut it together just to see, how it all worked together. And this is how I learned, editing and storytelling and, at least the early machinations of it, right? Because, as I said, you want to have that point of view. You start to recognize what works and what doesn't. And the reason why I mention that this is a technique for any cinema verite is because when I did my first 2 feature films, I wanted it to have a very, frenetic look to it. Meaning that I remember speaking with the actors, and when we worked out blocking, I gave them the rough kind of scope of what I was looking for from them, but they were like, okay, well, where's camera going to be? And I was like, don't worry about the camera. If you need to move towards the kitchen or you need to like do this, my job is to make sure that I'm capturing you, right? So don't worry about that. You do what you as the character need to do, and I'll make sure it's filmed. And obviously with a feature film, you need to get multiple angles, right? Multiple takes and yada, yada. So that's all possible. But the preparation of having filmed all this stuff in the real world, right, allowed me to really think fast on my feet of, okay, what is an interesting angle in a particular moment as something's happening, right? Now, the benefit with a feature film is that you can, even though the actors are kind of, I give them very much free rein to, have those moments of mobility, it's still, pre-orchestrated, right? Unlike, unlike a live thing such as a wedding. But because I've essentially reversed engineered it where, I filmed all that stuff at the beginning of real world stuff, it allowed me to think fast on my feet and be able to capture that stuff. So, I say all this, if you're in the realm of filming just live events like that, knowing and having, of course you want cameras in general to cover the majority of what you have, right? But if you're not covering the whole event, like there's been plenty of times that I've been hired on sort of networking events, and all they're really looking for is sort of a package of the thing that'll be like, 3 to 5 minutes, right? And so oftentimes, you'll have someone kind of give a short speech, maybe some introductions, words are exchanged, yada, yada. So you, of course, want to film that. That's like your wedding vows, right? If it were a wedding video. So you film that, make sure that's good, that's clean. And then you film the rest of it, right? And same thing applies. You're just filming, what's interesting and giving it a point of view. So pick your subject and go for it. So I know that's a lot of words to essentially, just say pick a subject. But I think too many people make these sort of mistakes because they're not viewing from that baseline level of, hey, just start with something like what's interesting, go shoot it, pick a perspective. And again, it doesn't have to be overly long, but give it at least 3 seconds so that way you can cut into it. And that's the other thing, as someone who not only filmed this, but edited it, I can see the mistakes that I was making. So it reverse engineered it for me where I got better and better each time. So by editing the first stuff that I did, then I could film the next stuff better. Then when I edited that, I saw, okay, yes, there's an improvement, but here's how I can improve it more and so forth, right? So it became that sort of ongoing learning process of it all. So I wanted to highlight that for you as a way to help if you're in that world of cinema verite, whether nonfiction or fiction itself. So may it help you. As always, if you have any questions or thoughts of your own, please comment down below or hit me up on social media at Svitek. I truly do appreciate you and hope to see you next time.